The dust rose first, long before the sound of hooves reached the ranch, crept across the plains like a warning no one was there to hear. Inside the small homestead, Mary Caldwell stood at the kitchen table, her hands trembling as she folded a letter she had already read a dozen times. Her husband had been gone to winters now, taken by fever and bad luck, leaving her alone with a half-broken ranch, a young son, and land everyone said she should abandon. When the dogs began to whine and the wind seemed to hold its breath, Mary felt the old fear tighten in her chest. Trouble was coming. She didn't know how, but she knew it always did. The Caldwell Ranch had once been strong, known for its good water and honest work. But without a man to guard it, word had spread fast. Raiders had started circling the area, men who took what they wanted and left ruin behind. Mary had heard stories and town fences burned, cattle stolen, families driven away. Each night she prayed they would pass her land by. And each morning she woke up knowing prayers alone were never enough. The riders appeared on the ridge just after sunrise. 5 of them, dark shapes against the pale sky, rifles slung and confidence riding high. They laughed as they came closer, already dividing the ranch in their minds. From a distance, the place looked weak. A leaning barn, a weathered house. No, men in sight. Easy pickings. The leader raised a hand, signaling the others to slow. He enjoyed this moment, the fear before the taking. Mary saw them from the porch and felt her legs weaken. Her son Jacob, barely 10 years old, clutched her dress. She wanted to hide him, to tell him not to look, but there was nowhere to run. Instead, she straightened her back and stepped forward. If this was the end of her ranch, she would face it standing. As the riders crossed the fence line, something caught their eyes. Nailed carefully to the old wooden fence was a white buffalo, hide stretched and weathered, but unmistakable. It fluttered slightly in the breeze, glowing almost unreal in the morning light. The horses slowed, then stopped altogether. One rider cursed under his breath. Another crossed himself. The laughter died instantly. The leader stared, his face draining. Of color? Every man on the plains knew the stories. A white buffalo was sacred air beyond belief, a sign of powerful medicine and deep spiritual protection. Some said it brought blessings, others said it brought death to those who disrespected it. No matter the version, one thing was certain. You did not cross land marked by a white buffalo hide. Mary didn't understand at first. She watched as the men who had looked so confident moments before now shifted uneasily in their saddles. Their eyes kept returning to the hide, as if it were watching them back. Silence hung heavy, broken only by the creak of leather and the wind moving through the grass. Jacob tugged at her sleeve and whispered, "Mama, why did they stop?" Mary swallowed hard. "I don't know," she whispered back, though in her heart she felt something stir hope, small but alive. The hide had been given to Mary months earlier by an old native man named Two Feathers. He had stopped at the ranch one evening asking for water. She had shared her last bread with him, never asking who he was or why he traveled alone. Before he left, he had unwrapped the hide and placed it in her hands. He told her it was not a weapon, but a reminder. "Respect the land," he had said softly, "and the land will remember you." She had hung it on the fence, not knowing why, only feeling it belonged there. The raiders argued in low voices, insisted it was just a trick, a piece of skin meant to scare fools. Another refused to move forward, his fear clear. The leader clenched his jaw, torn between greed and dread. He had built his reputation on fearlessness, but even he had grown up hearing stories whispered around campfires. Men who ignored signs like this often didn't live long enough to regret it. Mary took a step forward, her voice shaking but steady enough to carry. "This land is all I have," she said. "There's nothing here worth blood." She didn't beg, she didn't threaten. She simply spoke the truth. The leader met her eyes. In them, he didn't see weakness. He saw a woman who had lost much and still stood her ground. His gaze drifted back to the white hide. For the first time in years, doubt outweighed hunger. Finally, he raised his hand again, this time signaling retreat. "We're leaving," he muttered. No one argued. They turned their horses around, moving faster as they put distance between themselves and the fence. Not one of them looked back. Mary's knees gave out once they were gone. She sank onto the porch, pulling Jacob into her arms as tears streamed down her face. She wasn't crying from fear anymore, but from relief so powerful it hurt. The ranch still stood. Her son was safe. Somehow, against all odds, they had been spared. Word spread quickly across the plains. Raiders avoided the Caldwell Ranch, giving it a wide berth. Some said the land was protected. Others said Mary herself carried a strength no one should challenge. Travelers began stopping again, offering help, trading goods, sharing stories. The ranch slowly healed, just as Mary did. Years later, Jacob would ask her about that day, about the men who froze at the sight of the fence. Mary would smile softly and tell him that power didn't always come from guns or numbers. Sometimes it came from kindness given freely, from respect shown when no one was watching, from standing firm even when your hands are shaking. The white buffalo hide stayed on the fence, weathered by sun and storm, a quiet reminder to all who passed by. It wasn't magic that saved the ranch. It was the bond between people, land, and belief. And as long as Mary and her son honored that bond, no raider would ever truly claim what wasn't theirs to take.